Welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast. My name is Scott. I'll be your host today. Got a great guest for you today. I'm going to bring her in just a moment. As always, you can find this in the back episodes of our podcast at our website. It's called ordinarymarathoner.com. Check it out if you get a chance. You can also find them on the aggregators, places like Stitcher and TuneIn and iTunes, of course. If you got that iPhone, you can download the podcast app. Look for Ordinary Marathoner. If you like the show, you hit that subscribe button. You'll never miss a new episode that way. You can also find us over on YouTube these days. We're putting we're downloading the audio of the podcast over there, along with a few videos. I'm up to 30 subscribers, and my daughter, as you guys know, she weighs my popularity based on how many subscribers I have. So everyone helps. So we're up to 30. And I think when we first started, we had just 6. So, I'm getting to be more and more of a superstar in my daughter's eyes. So if you can help me out there, by all means, that would be wonderful. We can also be found over on Twitter at Ord Marathoner. That's O-R-D Marathoner. Follow me there. I'll follow you back. Get the conversation going on over there, or head on over to Facebook to our discussion group. It's called Ordinary Marathoners. It's a great group of people. Any skill level from just beginner, if you just looking to get into running, or if you're an ultra marathoner, it doesn't matter. There's just a really good supportive group over there. You can post your questions, you can post your workouts, do whatever you like. It's just a kind of a great place to hang out. And I think my guest is actually a new member over there as well. Again, I have to say, Jen Bergstrom out there, bringing in, she's my talent scout. She's bringing in the talent for me. She said, I absolutely needed to have this woman on. Susan Haag, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited to be here, and a Facebook follower.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate that. So my friend Jen, she reached out to me and she said, I absolutely had to have you on the podcast. So welcome to the show. I'm thrilled to have you here.
Well, thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
And, I go onto your Facebook, she mentioned you to me, and my first thing is, all right, so if Jen's saying that this woman has to be on the show, let me find out what makes her so special. And so I went on your Facebook page, and, the first thing that you mentioned there, the first woman to complete 100 Ironman Distance Triathlons. Can this be true?
Oh, yes.
This is insane.
Not really. To me, it just doesn't. Isn't that terrible? I mean, I'm sure the first one kind of took me by surprise, but I did not plan for it. So I think what happened is everybody else lets Ironman get in your head and mess with you. And I just didn't know any better. And I think that's what they say. You just stumble into something, the accidental Ironman. And I did it like at the last minute and had such a magical experience. And I mean, I think it's true. It changes you, and you fall in love, I think, a little bit with who you become. And I think I fall a little bit more in love, with myself. And it's not always the positive parts, but I mean, you get, you change. And I think it was that adventure which led me to, find out what I was made of and what I could do in a pinch, that just made me keep coming back. And I mean, I literally, when I started in 2002, I did it unplanned. And then once I finished it, I think I was so surprised I did it that I had to add 2 more on. And then I'm compulsive, so once you added 3, you're like, well, I got to do 3 again. And then the next year I'm like, well, I got to go 3. And then I turned 40. So I'm like, well, I'll just throw 4 in this year. And then it became 5. Then it became 6. Then I'm now out of control. So, I mean, how
many have you done so far this year?
Well, I've only done 2.
Oh, you're way behind.
Exactly. But that's what someone said. My schedule is so lopsided because I probably am not the person who should be affording these. It's one of those things where you're like, do I eat this month or do I do an Ironman? I think I'm going to do an Ironman. So, I make very poor financial decisions, but I try to be somewhat sensitive to my budget. And by budget, I don't even know what I mean by that. But I do races that I can afford. Yeah. So, needless to say, if I can find an independent iron, I'm all over that.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I love new stuff. I mean, I like exploring. So I try to put those in the rotation. However, if I can drive to one and or borrow a bike, at one and it makes it cheap, then I'm all about that too.
Gotcha. That's,
I mean, I just lost you.
No. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
You kind of go quiet, but you're back.
All right.
But anyway,
So I'm amazed at the story. I heard the whole, the audio was fine the whole way.
Okay, good.
Yeah. But, I kind of want to take a step back here for a second, because I think, so I did my first Ironman last year. And I'm with you 100% in terms of once you do one, it's almost like you're like, oh my God, I just did that and I wanted to do another one. So I did a second one like within 3 months, and it was great experience. And I loved it so much that I signed up for another one this year. Now my training kind of fell off this past year, and I DNF'd Ironman Lake Placid. But I'm okay with it. I'm learning to live with it. I signed up for next year. That's all part of my, so I do grasp that, and I get the whole sort of addiction to it. I certainly do, but I guess what I kind of want to do is I want to take a step back, because I think we just kind of rifled through about 15 years, but I want to go back to that first Ironman that you did. Now you mentioned you kind of got roped into it and you wanted to find out what you could do.
I fell into it.
You fell into it. Okay.
If I said roped, I fell into it, and if I said roped,
okay,
it was only that once they threw it out there, I'm like, okay, tell me more, and now you sucked me in.
Right. So I mean, were you always an athlete beforehand? I mean, how did you kind of?
No, I was a little nerdy kid. No, I think I sat in the rocking chair and sang songs thinking that I was going to be some country music star, and I don't have any talent. But no, I was not an athlete in the least. And I grew up in Kentucky, and our school was like a bazillion miles away across 400 tobacco farms. And so, you really just didn't have an opportunity to hang around after school because you had a bus. And my parents worked. And so, pretty much when the end of the school day came, we piled onto the bus, prayed no one threw up because that was really gross, and then rode home, and then I'd be content to find my book, or eat some potato chips in front of the TV. And it really was not until I want to say that I went off to college, and I went off to an all-women's school up in Massachusetts. And
which is where I live, by the way. I'm in Massachusetts.
Ooh, super nice. And when I got up there, it was costing a lot of money. And what was great about Smith was once you paid basically the amount of money they asked, you didn't pay by the credit hour. You just paid, you were there, and then you could do whatever you wanted. So I think I tried to maximize my parents' investment in my future. And so they had a crew team. And I'm like, I don't even know what crew is, but I'm going to go check it out. And I'm sure there were some girls in my house that were doing it. And so went down there, they threw me in a boat. I was the worst thing. I mean, I was terrible. I was too big to be a coxswain, but way too small to actually be a good rower. Plus, I didn't know what I was doing. So I pretty much as soon as they could cut me, they did. They're like, that's been fun, go do something else. So I played softball for 2 years, and then I was so bad that I was on the JV team, because these kids have played all their life, and plus I don't think I had any real talent. And so, I sat on the bench for the most part and chased after the balls that went out into the woods. But that was the extent of my athletic career. However, when I came back to Jacksonville, Florida, where I live still, and was heading off to law school, I didn't get in where I wanted to go because I thought Harvard and Yale should beg me to come to their school. And so, I had some spare time. So I started just simply because we had to run down to the boathouse, and I kind of dug it because it was really like a little adventure. For the first time, instead of using a car or a bus or, your mom as a chauffeur, you had to go and do it on your own feet, your own locomotion. And maybe that was the beginning of it. But so I started running around the neighborhood in the dark of night, when nobody would see me. I think I wore a boyfriend, an ex-boyfriend's pair of boxer shorts. After a while, the elastic went bad. I had to hold it up while I ran. You wear a jog bra that's, probably already been worn out. So, you're just like, I really hope nothing happens, and I'm not a witness to anything because I cannot be seen. but I did run, 5K a night or something like that. And then I went off to law school. And I honestly, I wish I had a better memory, and I did keep a diary, and I'm going to probably have to go and dig it out of a box. And I hope I wrote my thoughts down, but literally I had a membership to the gym. And so at the gym, there was a notice that must have said there's a triathlon. And I mean, heck, I didn't even know what I was doing. I think I had done a charity bike ride. I don't even know how I came upon it because I did not have a bike even, or at least not one that I had now grown. I mean, I had like the purple banana seat, with the big handlebars and the streamers, but I don't think I could really ride that. So I had borrowed a boyfriend's bike. So you see where this is going here.
This is hilarious.
But everybody else supports me with their stuff. But I had borrowed a boyfriend's bike that was like ginormous.
Yeah.
And, wearing tennis shoes and, a helmet from circa 1972. And I swear to you, in the year I guess I started law school in 1990.
Right.
So, I mean, literally in 1990, I am dressed like what the Ironman were wearing back in 1978. I mean, if you look at them then, and now that I think about it, I think that's what I look like.
You're wearing like jean shorts and...
Oh, yeah, because you didn't know. You go to Dick's Sporting Goods and you're like, just give me some shorts, and I think I have to have a helmet.
Oh, yeah.
But I rode the MS 150, so I could run, and I had biked. So I think I saw this poster that said, there's a triathlon. And I mean, where I got this adventuresome spirit, I have no idea. But I decided I wanted to do it, spoke to a kid that I was going to law school with, and he said, hey, he probably wanted to date me. So I think that was my one saving grace. And he said, I'll teach you to swim. So I said, woohoo. So we went out in the apartment pool, and I mean, I probably doggy paddled from one end to the next. I mean, I knew how to swim as a kid, but,
right.
You didn't really, as a girl, you just, threw on some Crisco and some sun in your hair and laid out in the sun. So,
well, swimming for fun and swimming to enjoy it or swimming just to survive out in the ocean is different than trying to swim distance for.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Big time. And the good thing was it was in a lake. So at least I didn't have to contend with sharks. I just had to, now that I think about it, and I'm sure there were some alligators lying around the edge. But so I borrowed, once again, this time I borrowed my roommate's boyfriend's bike. So apparently I dig men's bikes. But I don't even know what I wore. I wish like heck we'd had iPhones back then. Because, the cameras we had were those Polaroids that spit the picture out the front.
Right.
So you never, yeah. So
who knows where those, you lose those pictures all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I didn't have any pictures. So I don't even know if he went with me. I'm assuming he did.
Yeah.
So he was clearly not important in my life, and I didn't subsequently marry him and have his children. But I show up at the triathlon. I must have had a blast. I think I may have been one of the very few women who showed up. So I think I won, and I'm like, woohoo, I'm set for life. So that was my first triathlon ever. And I flatted, had no idea how to fix it, rode his tire flat, had to buy him a new tire.
Ouch.
I'm sorry,
like
not a new tire, a new wheel.
Yeah.
I had to buy him a new wheel because it was like literally a square when it came off the bike. And so, but I was hooked. And so fast forward, I competed in local sprints. I mean, went to Claremont, that's like one of the triathlon destinations now with the USA, the Olympic Center down there, Triathlon Training Center.
Right.
And fast forward, I'm a prosecutor. I don't make a whole lot of money. And I changed jobs after about 10 years. So fast forward to 2002. And I'm getting ready to take a big high-paying private firm job. And I'm going to take 2 weeks off vacation. And my friend said, what are you going to do, to celebrate your new job? And I'm like, I don't know. And I'd done a half Ironman by then. And I think I'd done the one marathon in 2001. I think I did Marine Corps Marathon, which was, I believe, 9/11. So that had been a pretty amazing experience in and of itself, because it just the utter tragedy of it all.
It was on that day?
Well, no, the marathon. So you figure September 11th came about.
Oh, it was after that.
It was October, the end of October.
Yeah.
So you're running, and all these people had lost folks, and they had like their friends, pinned on their shirts. And I mean, I think I cried for 26.2 of the, my first ever miles of a marathon.
And the Marine Corps Marathon is, I ran that one year. I think Stephanie and I ran it in, 2015. And, and the way they set it up with the way it's like tied to the military and all that is just, they have a whole thing called the Blue Mile. I don't know,
Yep. Yes.
And it's emotional to begin with. So I can't imagine, probably less than a month or a month after 9/11.
You're running by the, and as normal Americans, you're not around guns. I mean, you're not really around soldiers. I mean, other than to celebrate them, you're not really around them. And so here you are. I was unfamiliar with DC. I mean, I'd been up there maybe once. And so you're running around all these exceptionally patriotic, amazing. I mean, the Memorial's still, it's just one of my most favorite places. And it was like a little mini tour around DC.
Yeah.
But you start around the Pentagon. And when you're running the perimeter of the Pentagon and you have all these soldiers with machine guns standing, and then you can almost see the smoke still rising, and you can see the charred remains of the portions of the building, and then knowing what had happened. Like I said, I mean, I think we all cried for 26 months. I mean, number one, we didn't even know the race was going to go off. I mean, and plus everybody was afraid, you know, what else are they looking to do? Yeah. So, you thought, are we just a target?
Yeah. But, I actually, that year, I moved to New York that year. And I had, I moved to New York just before 9/11, actually in August of that year. And, I put my name in for the New York City Marathon lottery and did not get in. And I didn't realize I wasn't really a runner. I kind of was training with friends and figured, all right, I'll give this a shot. So once I didn't get in, which is like March, I just stopped running and I wasn't really training. But then I actually got an email from New York Roadrunners after that, after 9/11 saying so many people had canceled because of international travel and all that. And it became difficult and people didn't want to do the race anymore because then people were afraid. They were afraid to travel. They were afraid to participate. And did I want to do the race? And at that point, there was no way I was going to be able to run 26.2, so I had to say no. But I know, tragedy. And then I didn't run. I didn't run really for another 10 years, and I wound up doing my first marathon, which was New York in 2014. So 13 years later. But yeah, it's I mean, back then, geez, that time frame, that time period, it was. Yeah, I can imagine, and that was your first marathon then.
Marathon, yes.
Yeah. So
and I mean,
that was my first. And for a weird, I mean, it makes it memorable, I'm sure.
Oh yes, and I mean, I think I've run it 6 more times, and I'm scheduled to run it again. And see, I'm unlike you. If somebody called me tomorrow and said, well, of course now, but I mean, I think even back then, if someone called me and said, there's a marathon tomorrow, do you want to run it? And I'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I just, no, it's not smart. I mean, you clearly, when your athletic performance has to be a certain level before you let yourself tackle it. Me, on the other hand, I'm just like, oh, wait, there's an Ironman tomorrow? Yeah, well, I think I can do the distance, so let's just tee it up.
Do you know what's because yeah, you're totally right. I appreciate meeting people like you because sometimes I'm believe it or not, I'm kind of like that in a certain way. The Ironman I did last year was my very first triathlon. So I didn't do a sprint. I just went for the big one. So I'm not smart in different ways.
Yes, that's true. We're both not smart, but in
right.
Yin and yang. Yeah. But I mean, so the gist of it between, the two jobs, these guys said, they live here in Jacksonville. They said, hey, we're going to Brazil. We're doing an Ironman. Why don't you sign up? And I'm like, but I didn't train. They're like, you can swim, you can bike, you can run, you can figure it out. And I said, okay, well, and back then you didn't Google stuff. I mean, you're like, okay, you're all going to have to sit down and tell me everything. And so I literally drove to Miami thinking that I could get a visa overnight. And the guy's like, yeah, that's not how that works, ma'am. And I'm like, but I have already booked my flight. I need to go. They're like, ma'am, that's not how that works. And I'm like, but I'll have your first child. So he goes, look, the best you can do is, and that's what I did. He said, you're going to have to drive down the minute the doors open, show up. And if we can get it done within a 24-hour cycle, we'll see what we can do. Just depends. We can't promise you. So I literally jumped in the car, drove straight to Miami the following day to arrive there when it opened. And I mean, I got there early, so I'd be first in line. And when I walked in, I got to talking to the dude, and I said, look, I'd really like to. And he said, wait a minute, did you offer to have my baby yesterday? And I said, oh, yeah, that was me. And he goes, do me a favor, go get some lunch and come back. So I'm like, yeah, one more step closer to an Ironman. So, I had already purchased my airfare, and back in the day, Brazil had not yet sold out. So I literally signed up for Ironman Brazil 2 weeks out, having not trained. And, so I think that week I decided to do my swim training. And so I literally went to the pool every day and swam a mile. And I said, if I could swim a mile every day, then I surely can fake 1.4 extra miles. I'll be good. And then I love biking. So I probably had been biking. I just hadn't been biking 100 plus miles. But, you figure if I can bike 75 miles, I can gut out another, another 36 miles, which, that sounds intelligent until you're biking. You're like, I'll tell you what's another 36 miles, and then I had done the one marathon. So I said, I can at least walk. I'll just have to walk really fast if worse comes to worse. And so I don't think I had practiced any bricks for anything other than, I probably was doing a lot of, training that would consist of a sprint triathlon, because you go to the gym, swim a quarter mile, get out, you could spin on the bike inside for 10 miles and then you'd run the 5K, so that was probably where I was. And I'd logged every mile I ever did. So I could probably go back and look, but I show up in Brazil, thinking that is summertime. Promptly, I realize it is not summertime. It is their winter time, and I am totally inappropriately dressed with all my little cute dresses. So I literally wore everything I owned every day for the entire time I was there. They had said I could stay with them, so I'm in this little trundle bed, and then they proceed to tell me what all I need. And so it's funny, I have the Polaroid photographs from where I laid everything out on the bed of what went in the bag. And there's this great picture that my friend took because I have this other girlfriend that I met via Facebook, and she was doing her first ever Iron for Naples. And so she drove down from where you all are up in Boston, somewhere down south. Yeah. And she was prepared to do her first Ironman. I drive in from Jacksonville and I'm getting ready to do my, I think, 102nd Ironman or something. And I walk in the door and almost faint. I'm like, good Lord, woman. I mean, how much stuff do you possibly have? She literally had an entire table stacked with stuff of what she was going to pack her bags with. And then you look over here and Susan has dumped her stuff out and it barely goes in a Ziploc. And they're like,
it is funny how I put everything in those bags the first time I did it. And then this last time I was like, I think my bike special needs bag had it just had a little Ziploc with aspirin and some nutrition in it, just in case I need dry socks in case I wanted to change.
Yes. I put a Tic Tac in there. I'm like, okay, I might want a Tic Tac. But I did an Ironman once, and as a joke, I just said, you know what? I'm not packing. I'm not doing it. I'm just not packing a single calorie. We'll see what happens. Yeah. I'll get enough off the course.
You can.
Of course. Well, until you go through the bike aid station, you snag a Gatorade, and then you go to reach for the goo, and you ride right past it. And you're like, that's 10 miles. I'm going to be hungry. And if you miss twice, because I can even say I'm going to get off the bike and do X. I get back on the bike, I drive away, and I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't do anything I said I was going to do.
That so happens,
Lube. I forgot to grab soda. Yeah.
And you never know. And then you're kind of stuck, you're kind of stuck until the next time you get there. But, I don't know. It's, I know that, so when I did the 2 Ironman last year and I got to the run portion, when I practiced running, I took a lot of those gels. I did nothing but those gels. And then on race day, for whatever reason, I'd never done obviously the full length swim and the full length bike and then go on and run. But I did not want to eat those gels for whatever reason. My body just did not want, they had no desire to eat. And thankfully for all the aid stations there, you know what I enjoyed the most? Grapes.
Ew.
I don't even eat grapes that much. But for some reason on that day, the grapes were there. I started eating them. And the first time I tried oranges and I liked them, but you eat oranges for 3 or 4 aid stations in a row. Yeah. And the acid just starts destroying your stomach. But the grapes were just sweet. And I don't know, it worked for me.
Well, let me tell you, I'm all about, I will, usually I don't take anything. And sometimes I don't even, it used to be, they tell you make sure you put on that adhesive stuff where we could see or you'll be DQ'd. So you're driving all over, tarnation looking for the little, what do you call it? The little adhesive stick on fluorescent stuff.
Yeah.
And, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to get DQ'd if I don't have 72 And then the first several Ironmen I did, I'd be like, what is all this stuff all over the floor? It's like I'm looking at astrology down here with all these glittery stars on the pavement. And you're like all these, folks just like me who bought all this stuff out because Ironman probably owned stock in it. Right. And yet, the minute you sweated, they fell off and then they were. So now I don't do anything. So they're like, make sure you can be seen in the dark. I'm like, nope, not going to do it. you'll run us on a highway, somebody will see me.
Yeah.
So I don't do anything they tell you. Sometimes I've even done a couple times and I didn't mean to, but you just forget to get body marked. Cause I'm not, well, people go nuts over those tattoos cause they're like, we want to look so professional.
Cause it looks sharp, right?
Oh, they look totally sharp. However,
yeah, they do. I like the marker. I prefer the marker.
Well, the others, and I love my friend who works at Sport Tats and he'll be all mad at me, but they look fabulous. However, they take you forward. He says you can get them right off and you can, but I never wear whatever it is I'm supposed to have to get them off And so literally I will go for like 6 months with the numbers on going out. And then if you forget your age is on the back and people look at you funny and you're like, yeah. But
well, for you do so many of these things, you might as well just leave the numbers on.
Well, that's what I said. I'm like, Ironman, could I just have the same number for every, I don't care where you rack me. And that way I don't even have to bother. I'll just wear the same thing. Because I one time had a helmet that literally had 37 stickers on it because you just stick one right on after top. Because you just forget to take it off. And then you're there, you're like, I'm just slapping it on. If I take it off, but let me tell you, I don't like fake food. I like real food by the time I get to the bike. By the run.
Right.
However, let me just say this. Unless you have individually wrapped some potato chips in a Ziploc baggie, or the volunteers are the only ones touching them and they're wearing gloves.
Oh, yeah.
You are eating other people's nasty DNA off of their man part.
You are.
Dudes have got to touch themselves, I'm pretty sure, when they're going to the bathroom. And they have lubed them. Yeah,
they lube themselves up. It's gross when you think about it. But
grapes,
don't ruin it for me. Why are you ruining my grapes?
So if you have some slimy grapes, let me just tell you. So I will pretty much die of hunger, but I have been known after desperation. You're like, I'm going in for the chips, but I'm going in on the side of the bowl that looks like there's a whole bunch of them that have never been touched.
Right. You go underneath and try to get the ones from the bottom.
Yes.
So let me ask you this, because we do kind of have to hit the break here, but I wanted to ask this question and we never quite made it there. But so the first woman to reach 100 Ironman Distance Triathlons, I have to think, like, is this a thing? And how do you know for certain that you weren't the first person to do 100?
Oh no, let me tell you, before Facebook came around, you probably wouldn't know. However, Facebook is fabulous for bringing you in touch with your tribe. You can find people. So there are literally, I think people know this stuff, but I think we have ascertained that John Ragg, spelled W-R-A-G-G, is a Canadian. Mm-hmm. He was at 143 at one point. I think he may have hit 200.
Wow.
He's nuts. He is the nicest man, but he's nuttier than a fruitcake. And I love him, and I'll tell him that to his face. He's nuttier than a fruitcake, but he is just amazing. And he, like me, he and I will do independent iron distance races. So if Challenge Roth, that's an independent, but it's an iron distance race. So he has done a slew of them. His wife, Elizabeth Model, M-O-D-E-L, she is the woman, as far as I know, behind me with the most Ironman distance races, and hers may be all Ironman brand. And so what I'm envious of her is because she has kind of a built-in enabler. So, if John's going to go do one, then she gets to go do one, whereas I got to go up by myself. So I kind of tell her she has to take a negative balance, that we can't really compare ourselves because she has someone. Right. But Louis Alvarez is also, like, if you scour the Ironman pages, then you'll find him, because Louis is Mexican and he has done all Ironman branded races, and he's probably easily at 150, I think. There is a pro by the name of Peter, P-E-T-R, and then his last name starts with the letter V as in Viper, and it's like this long V name. And he may be, I'm going to say Czechoslovakian, but I probably just lied. But he is of some European descent. He has, as a pro, has done, I believe, over 100 of them. And they may be, and there may be, and I think there, now in fact, I think there is another man, and he may be Wayne, and I think it's like Kurtz or something. He is an ultra iron person. So, obviously an Ironman is an Ironman, but there are absolutely nutters out there. So there's like the Deca Ironman. So
yeah, we had a guy on the show, Frank Fumick, who did a Deca, which I can't even
insane.
comprehend.
No, I can't comprehend that. And so
for you to say that, then you know.
Yeah, then you know. But for them, because their question is, do we count that as 10 of them?
10. That's an interesting question.
Well, and here's the interesting thing. So I did Ultraman Florida. So that's a 3-day race, but each day has a cutoff. And like the first day you do a swim followed by a 90-mile bike. The second day you do like 170 or something on the bike. And then the third day you run 50 miles. So obviously I did not count that at all in my tabulation because number one, each day wasn't even a full 3 events. So the Deca I don't think it is like an Ironman a day for 10 days. Those are just singles. I think the Deca, and I could be wrong, but I think.
Well, I actually know your answer, but you can go ahead.
Okay. Well, is it you literally swim 10 times?
Yeah.
So you swim 26 miles, then you get on the bike for 1,000, 2 billion miles, and then you run like 250 million miles.
Well, with the way they do it actually is you have a choice. You can either do a triathlon a day for 10 days, or you can do it, like you said, all the swimming, followed by all the biking, followed by all the running, which is, I think, when I talked to Frank about this and me and him kind of were thinking the same way was, the challenge seems to be putting it all together and doing the swim, then the bike, then the run, and just kind of making it a full thing, as opposed to taking it in 10 separate days. It's almost like cheating, but obviously it's still impressive. But
I agree with y'all. I think it'd be far harder mentally, because when I swam 6.2 miles, I wanted to kill myself. I'm not a swimmer, and the water was rough, and I literally swam into my kayak. Swam straight into it, cracked my skull, came out and used an expletive that my mother would not be very proud of. And I was madder than a hornet, because I was like, because of course you want to blame the kayakers. I'm like, dude, I'm in the water. You should see me if I'm coming at you, move. But it's not their fault at all. But and it was just, but that's how disoriented I got with the wind and the water and all that. But had I not gotten out soon, I would have just thrown a temper tantrum in the water and had to be drug out because it was just horrid, I tell you.
But that one didn't count towards the whole.
No,
right.
No. And so
I can appreciate that. And you know what too is this: you have the 17-hour cutoff for Ironman, right? Correct. So that kind of blows that out of the water. And not that I don't know if you finished in 17 hours or not, but it's a very specific distance and time requirement for Ironman. So if it's not exactly that, I think then it's just a different type of event. So I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
Yeah. But these people that do these nutter, bazillion time Ironman. I just think that's crazy. I don't even think I want to do that, but I do admire the heck out of them. And I know that is a different animal. And to me, my hats are off to them, because sometimes people say, anybody, I always say anybody can do an Ironman. Now, admittedly, if you've not worked out in a billion years, you probably can't walk to the line and do it. But for the most part, there is nothing special. I tell people there's nothing special about me. I am not, I'm not a Sister Madonna. When I turned 50, I did not run a sub 3-hour marathon. So, it takes every bit of me, because I don't train like I should, because I think if I trained like I should, I'd be doing far less because you'd be worn out. And so Leslie Battle, a friend of mine, one time I said, my motto is race fresh, don't train. And she thought that was hilarious, but it's true, because I do it every weekend. I don't train in the interim. So because of that, 17 hours is generous, but I'm using every bit of it. I also pet dogs, and I dance, and I chat with people, and I go backwards.
You enjoy it.
Yeah, I make it a party. It really is for me. It hurts too, but it's just a little day of adventure, peppered with some, hugs and dogs and dancing.
Yeah.
And good music.
Well, it sounds like you do have fun with it. Let's hit the break here for a second, Susan. This is going to be, we're having a great time. This is excellent. We're going to,
I'm telling you, we could have a little campfire, make some s'mores. We'd be best friends.
All right. We'll be right back after the break with Susan Haag. Hey guys, my friend Lauren is creating an incredible resource for runners and triathletes. It's called raceadvisors.com. She has amassed a list of thousands of races, 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, marathons, ultramarathons, and triathlons, and anything in between. If you're thinking about running a race, look it up and check out the reviews. Have a favorite race of your own? Look it up. See what others have to say about it. Or better yet, leave a review of your own. raceadvisors.com. Read it, race it, review it. I may not have a lot of hair, but I tell you, I know style when I see it. And I know you guys and gals with the flowing locks, you need something functional to keep that hair out of your face when you go on your daily run. And I have just the thing for you. It's called Greasy Girl Headbands. And I know what it sounds like, but it's not spelled that way. It's Greecie, girlheadbands.com. They make headbands that are specially designed for the runner to keep that hair out of your face, out of your eyes when you're out there on your daily run. So check them out. GreasyGirlHeadbands.com, Greecie, and find a design that's perfect for you. All right, we're back now from break with Susan Haag. Susan, you seem to have a lot of stories.
I have stories,
and what I love is that like that you're so sort of like positive and energetic about the sport, and so enthusiastic, I guess is the word. And it's like for me, I'm out there struggling. And I get into these modes. I don't think I could manage a smile. For me, the payoff comes after when I get the medal and I stop and I think about what I just did and I'm like, wow, that was great. I got to do it again. But the during part, it's very hard for me to smile. How do you do it?
I think it's the Red Bull. Because, and I mean, that does kind of concern me because I think when I'm young, the heart can tolerate. I mean, heck, I used to do 5 and 6 Red Bulls in Ironman, and I really hope nobody looks at that, that I was doping.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if that's legal. Yeah. I think Lance Armstrong went down for those.
Oh, man, I tell you, to me, it just gives me a lot of mental clarity for some reason.
Yeah.
It's like I got to turn that smile upside down. But I don't, or frown rather, because turning the smile upside down would make it a frown. But I go through those low points just like you all do. And I mean, hey, I've shed a few tears. I've gotten highly aggravated at myself, when you just don't realize why your legs won't turn over or, you start to feel kind of queasy and you don't know what's going to turn the tide, and then someone will run by and go, hey, smile.
Right, how
and
you
like,
doing?
Dude, seriously? Yeah. Or they'll go, you're almost there. And you're like, dude,
I'm not
almost there.
I'm still on the first loop. That was me a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. And I'm like, please don't say what I think you're going to say. So I try not to be the little Pollyanna for everybody else. I try to come up with something off the wall funny, or I found, the one thing I did find is when I did Mont Tremblant probably about 4 years ago, it's an out and back, a real long out and back.
Right.
What I did, because I'm not a very good swimmer, so I tend to start in the back anyway. And I do try to look around. And I have been known that when I see people, especially women, that appear to be very emotional, maybe frightened, maybe apprehensive,
happens
maybe
a lot,
lonely. Yeah, something.
Not necessarily women. I mean, people in general, it happens a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, I notice it with women more. I mean, because I don't want to walk up to a dude and hug him. He'd probably swat me. But I do hug women, or I'll just say, hey, what's going on? Can I help you with something? And then just tell them, this is your race. So you don't need to be this apprehensive. Let everybody go. Unless you're trying to qualify for the Olympics, you're not going to win it in the swim. So, and I tell them, and sometimes you just need someone to vocalize something so you can go, yeah, that's a good idea. Because, in your mind, you have so many things going on that, it's like it's having cotton. So I tell women, I'd rather be comfortable in the swim. I don't want anybody touching me. I hate when people touch me because it makes me think it's a snake or something, like the creature from the Black Lagoon. It's going to grab me. And one time, seriously,
it's spooky out there sometimes.
Yes. And let me tell you, dudes, trim your dang toenails because I'm swimming and some dude clocked me with a foot to the face. Oof. And I think his scraggly old toenail drug my goggle down and left like blood on my face. But I was like, you're shocked. You're like, I think I'm dying. I'm not certain I'm going to need stitches. But I don't want anybody to touch me. So I started the back and I said, look, make your own little private Idaho. That way you're going to be at this comfortable area of water, and water's scary. Because if you're riding your bike, you can get off. If you're running, you can, stop and walk. But it's hard to tread water, else you're hanging on to something and there may be nothing to hang on to.
Right.
So you just calm someone down and then you hope that you've kind of turned the tide for them. Because a lot of people just say, I got to get out of the water and then I'm okay. But, once I think you start the day with the positive, then I think that kind of makes everything else. And I do find that if I start to feel cranky, if I start focusing on things other than myself, I can find the joy, so I like the smells of the open road. One time I think I was somewhere and, there was a girl crying. Oh, I think I'd stopped at Special Needs in Canada and this chick was crying beside me. And I'm like, lady, why are you crying? You're halfway done with the bike. Calm down, knock it off. What's going on? And I said, look, there's a tampon under your chair. Just think, some lady's having a worse day than you are. And she started laughing, so you just got to find a positive somewhere, and I mean, that's what I love about triathlon, because there are some tools out there and I don't even want to talk to them. But for the most part, you can come up and start to talk to somebody and people have great stories or they're really funny. And then sometimes they're duds. Like I've walked up on a couple duds and I'm like, whoop, see ya.
Just move on.
Away.
Yeah.
Go faster, run a little bit. You feel fresh.
I've always said that, that there's like a certain percentage, like if you meet a normal person on the street, maybe there's a 20 to 30% chance that they're not friendly or kind of a jerk. And I think in the running or even triathlon community, I think it lowers to about 10.
Yes.
I think for some reason there we have our jerks, we have our exceptions, but for the most part, the people that you meet, I mean, everyone's kind of going through the same thing, and it's a mental challenge as much as it is physical. And I mean, I've met some of the nicest people through the sport. People that I'm sure are going to be lifelong friends that I would have never met otherwise.
That I would have never met.
Yeah.
Oh, and what I was going to say, so when I ride, I smile at people. And when I did that at Mont Tremblant, if I passed 200 people, and I swear to you, 196 smiled. And they literally were not smiling beforehand. And literally, you could tell this, they always say you can see when a smile reaches someone's eyes. But there was that surly 4 that didn't even smile. They just looked at me and went on. I'm like, you're a jerk. Your day is going to be hard. So hope you don't suffer.
I think even that though, it's not necessarily a sign that they're not a nice person. It's just that they're going through some pain.
Yeah. Well, I sat down one time, and a volunteer, and it was like it beached a battleship. No, I'm sorry. It was when the first year that Chesapeake Man became Ironman Maryland. And I mean, I was having a bad day. I mean, I think it was mostly because I was hungry and I just didn't recognize it. And I sat down in the little gab, and I came off the bike. I looked for a chair. I took my sad little bag of food, and I was just sitting there, and I was being all chatty. And I said, sir, forgive me. I'm normally a very nice person, but I'm in a bad way. So I'm going to not talk to you right now, because if I do, I'm liable to yell at you and I won't mean it. And he left me alone. He probably ran into the bushes. Oh, wait, I do have a funny story for you. So I was at the halfway point of, I believe it was Ironman Maryland, this most recent year that I did it.
Did you do it last year? Because I did that. That was the second one that I did, which was a perfect day.
Yes, it was.
Except for the jellyfish, but I didn't get stung.
Yeah,
did you get stung?
I didn't get stung either. Yeah.
I knew a lot of people that got stung, but I was actually the only person I knew that didn't get stung. But now you are.
No, I did not get. And so I'm there, and some people know me by now, and
right.
So
you're at every single triathlon that's ever done.
Stop. Be nice.
I meant that in a good way.
No, and people come up and go, haven't I seen you at an Ironman? I'm like, yeah, probably. So one of my friends said, oh my gosh, you all, do you know who you're talking to? This is Susan Haag. She's done a ton of Ironman. Well, right prior to that introduction, I'd kind of turned away and I'd remembered all the things I wanted to do, and I'd eaten my Ensure, I'd had my Red Bull, I'd remixed up my powder, I'd taken some aspirin, I probably had a hot shot, and I put a lot of liquid in my belly, but I just applied lube to my lady parts. And as I turn around, they go, you have to meet her. And the young man held his hand out to shake my hand.
You gotta do it.
I'm like going in. I'm like, young man, you might not want to stick that in your mouth. I did not say that, but I'm like, oh, if only he knew. But
yeah, well, you know what? This is the world that we live in this sport, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, this was just was some like 17-year-old kid who did not probably want to do an Ironman and didn't even want to be there, but he was being a gentleman by sticking his hand out. But let me tell you, funnier thing, I was at Beach to Battleship one year, and I had come into special needs, and I had borrowed a bike, and the saddle was not my friend. And I said to one of the volunteers, I said, dude, you know, people come in and they leave, and oftentimes they'll leave stuff here. By chance, did anyone leave any lube? And, you know, then you got to explain what that is. Because, you know, lube by any other name smells as sweet. And so the kid goes off in search. And when he comes back, he's got this ginormous tube. And I'm like, well, thank heavens, because it felt full. And I said, you know what? So in my mind, I think I'm going to be funny. I've seen those Brill cream ads from way back, you know, when my dad was a young man. So I jokingly held out my hand for him to put some lube in it, because I didn't want to touch it because I knew where it had been and who probably had touched it before. So I'm like, kid, just squeeze it in there and make it go fast, because I don't want it even touching the rim. It's touch something. So he starts squeezing, and I'm like, more. And he literally put the entire tube in my hand. It was like literally 3 inches high.
Perfect.
And I think
you can use all that stuff. Like, you don't want, it's not the kind of thing that you want to be stingy with.
Oh, no. You always overlube. So the kid is giving me the mother load, and I kind of turn around, and as I'm going to say, I'm going to be ladylike about it and rotate, I said, does that come with a happy ending? Oh. And the kid just stood there, and he goes, you know, I'm only 17. And I said, I'm going to prison.
There you go.
Oh my gosh.
Better get out of there real fast. I'd get you on the run course quick.
Oh, no. Yeah. Well, I think he liked it. I think he was going to school and going, let me tell you what this woman said to me. These women do strange things with that lube. I don't know a ladylike way to put that on.
Yeah, I know. You know, like, so I went, the first marathon I did New York, and I was nervous because, so you leave the hotel at like, I don't know, 5 a.m, but my wave doesn't start till 11. So it's like, you can apply this stuff at the hotel, but I didn't know if it would last until 5 o'clock at night when I was probably going to finish. So you have no idea. So I brought some with me, and I didn't know what to put in. The only thing I had this like, you know those like little like sort of like chapstick things that they're not chapstick, they're like Lip Med-X or something. It's like a little tiny little tube. So I put the stuff in there. I just put it in there, and it was the only thing I had. So, and it was enough. It was a little dab will do you when you've already, kind of said it. So I brought it down there, and I'm there, and I'm sitting there, and I'm chatting with this kid who had never done a marathon before. He's a lot younger, and I'm like, well, what was your longest training run? He's like, 10 miles. I'm like, did you use something?
Yeah.
Did you use shaving cream? That's I think the nice word for it. And he's like, what is he's like, what is that? I don't know. And I'm like, dude, you have to go use this stuff right now. I am going to save you from a world of hurt.
Yep, you have no idea.
So I had to I basically handed over the cream. I said, listen, you got to leave a little bit for me. No double dipping.
Oh, gross. Yes. No, never double dipping. Dude.
No double dipping. It's just the way it was. But this is like, I think, again, running is the only sport where you can have like lube stories and not have them.
Yeah, well, share lube. You would not share lube anywhere else except, But let me tell you, this was good too. You can do this at your next Ironman. Go into the tent, because the volunteers will fall over themselves trying to help you out.
Isn't it great? Have you ever had a race where you're like, wow, those volunteers sucked?
Oh, yeah.
You have?
I ran by one time. Yeah, and I said, I'd like a goo. And she's like, we don't have any. I'm like, ma'am, what's that on the table? She's like, that's called a gel. And I said, ma'am, so then I smarted off, and then she just looked at me, and I said, okay, I'm very sorry. I don't know, pardon me. I'm just in the middle of an Ironman. Must I really call it by its name? So sometimes when I come in, I'm like, could I have the gel, goo, squishy stuff in the cylindrical tube? I mean, come on.
You got to be as specific as possible.
Yeah, you need to know what the homonyms are or something like that. But in the tent, the volunteers will fall over themselves. So when I got in there one time, this lady's like, can I help you? And usually I say, by now I know what I'm doing, and these other ladies need you far more than I do. So unless I need to either get a wet top off or a wet top back on or something, and, because I've tied myself up in there like in a straitjacket, and you're like, help, I need help. And then you're like, I'm sorry, I'm going to make you touch my boob, but it just has to happen. So pardon my French. But this woman was going, I need, can I help? Can I help? Can I help? I said, ma'am, let me tell you, I'm okay, but as soon as I need you, I'll shout out. So I finished getting ready and I was holding the lube, and she turned around and she goes, can I help you? I said, well, ma'am, actually you can. I need you to apply this lube. And she goes, well, where do you want me to put it? And I said, well, it goes on my lady parts. And she goes, excuse me? I said, well, you're a volunteer. You're supposed to do what I ask. And she goes, excuse me? I said, yeah, you all are supposed to apply the lube, and I need it on my lady parts. And then I'm like, I'm just kidding.
My God, you're scaring me.
I know. I did terrible. Then I realized that wasn't as funny as I thought it was. Then she laughed, but I heard her telling someone, she's like, that girl got me. And I'm like, oh, I got you good.
You have to do it. You volunteer.
Yeah, you're a volunteer. Did they not tell you that in the little small print?
Hell, I feel bad for the sunscreen people that they're out there with their gloves rubbing the sunscreen on you. I had a friend of mine. She volunteered for Lake Placid a few years ago. She thought she would do it the next year, and I think that year was one of the years where that was the only way you could get into the races if you volunteered the year before. And so she was one of the people that took the bikes in when and racked them.
She didn't know.
Well, she was there, and she's like, how come I have to wear gloves? Like, I don't understand this. And
My sister did the same thing. She said, Susan, and I wasn't wearing gloves, and someone said, why aren't you wearing gloves? And Shay's like, why do I need gloves? And then they explained it, and she's like, oh my gosh.
And for the listeners,
I put my hand in my mouth.
Yeah, for the listeners.
And let me tell you,
people pee on the bike.
Just so and I'll make it clear, in the 400 plus triathlon I've done, I have never peed on my bike.
In the wetsuit? The wetsuit, I bet.
Now that I cannot. There is no commenting here. Oh wait, let me tell you another good story.
The wetsuit is. I think the wetsuit. You have. Yeah, we can get to that. But the wetsuit, I think is more accepted. I will give you that.
Yes,
especially since it's your own wetsuit and no one else. Well, yeah. You're good.
Sometimes I borrow wetsuits, but then I'm like, I peed in your wetsuit. I'm sorry. But no, this is the funny wetsuit story, because when someone said to me, you can, because I said I'm freezing, and they're like, well, pee in your wetsuit. Now, no one told me pee in your wetsuit just because you got to go to the bathroom. They just said do it because it's helping your body maintain its 97-degree temperature.
Even a better excuse.
Then I said, oh, wait a minute here. Then I'm going to be cold more often. But I was going to do a race, an iron in Ocala with the HITS series, and a terrible downpour came through.
Yep.
So I had a wetsuit for a long time, and over the time, where it started to develop a hole was in the nether region. And, and I didn't want to buy a new one, so I kept using it. And then I just said, well, pretty soon I'm going to rip such a big hole that I'm going to have to. But, obviously I was wearing clothing underneath. Well, it rained and rained and rained. And so they delayed the start. And it was kind of chilly. So I really didn't want to be standing out in the rain to start my very long day. But I like coffee. So I had a Dunkin' Donuts extra large coffee, and needless to say, the call of nature was coming, and I did not want to take the wetsuit off and have to put it back on, because that, being wet, that'd be an act of Congress, but you'd never get it on.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I'm just going to do something gross. It's raining. So, really, I'm not in the water, but I'm going to, tinkle in my wetsuit, and no one will be the wiser. And I'm going to stand far away from people, because I'm not going to be like Ironman Louisville, where everybody's standing in line on dry wood and everybody just pees. So I start to go to the bathroom, and I look down, and because of where the hole was, it was literally like the cherub, that, the fountain. Yes. And you're like, stop. And once you start,
you can't stop. You gotta see it through to the end. Otherwise you're risking a UTI.
Yep. And I was like, well, that learned my lesson that time.
Well, you got the job done. You had to.
Yeah, but it was raining. So, I was still kind of safe, but all the raindrops were vertical and this was horizontal.
Well, if it's raining, then people aren't standing around anyway. They're worried about staying dry. So I do have to ask you about one other of your stories, because this was mentioned online, and I have like a strange sense of curiosity and mixed with a sense of
dread,
fear.
Yes. And you are
Hashtag
right to
fecal fob. What?
Yep. This was a sad tale of woe. Yes, I have a car that has a little, $400 fob apparently. And I had gone up to do Rev 3 Knoxville. And so it was a Sunday afternoon. It had been like a little festival all weekend. And so the portalettes, this row of portalettes, were super full of every kind of human excrement. Anything that you could possibly have come out of a human body was probably in this portalette. And stupid me finished the race, walked to my car, put my stuff in it, and then I was going to go back out to celebrate with my friends over near the expo. And because you never want to lose your keys, I always stick my keys in the waistband of my shorts so that, not in a pocket, not sitting on the car, not on the ground, not somewhere they can fall out, so that I'll always know where they are. So when I finished putting everything and then grabbed a backpack, I hit the fob to shut my car. And then for whatever reason, instead of putting the fob in the backpack that was probably on my back and I would have had to bring it around and fiddle with it, I stuck it in the waistband of my shorts, proceeded to walk back to all my friends and start drinking a beer, and I had to go to the bathroom. So I walk over to the portalette, go into the portalette, pull
I
your
know
pants
what's going to
down.
happen.
Yes. And I'm hovering because I'm not sitting on that. I'm hovering. And right as I pull my shorts up, I go, wait a minute.
This is like slow motion.
Yep. And I spun around.
No.
And when I spun, you see them hit the pile of poo and Kleenex and roll down the side into the water. At which point I ceased to think. You just stop thinking. I mean, you're just like, I am now a zombie. I do not even know what to do. I don't even know how deep a portalette is. There is stuff in there that I cannot humanly ever eyeball closer, nor smell, nor touch. There's a big problem. I mean, what happens? I don't know. That is the only way I can drive my car. So
it's the only right. It's the only way you can drive. It's
yeah. I mean, so I fling the portalette door open, and I can see my team, because at the time I was racing with Team Rev 3, which is why they are now all my enemies. No, I'm just kidding. But I go outside and I say, help. And I'm like, breaker 19, we've had a situation.
And this is after the race, though. So at least it's not like major lines at the porta potties, right? It's not like there are people waiting.
But there's like 3 people left in the team. I mean, there's nobody there because it's like 4:00 on a Saturday and I've been drinking a little beer. So literally everybody in my team just looks away because they now realize that's a situation they don't want to be involved in. And I'm like, I hate all of you. Yeah, no, but I'm like, I hate all of you because I can still see you. But
I was going to say, was there a hero? Is there a hero of the story? Not one.
Well, no, there's a hero in my mind, but he stopped being a hero too soon because he basically walked over and he's like, yeah, I got nothing. But because I was hoping someone was going to just stick their hand in there and be more of a man than I could be, but they would not. But anyway, they had
could you get a stick or something?
Well, but no, brilliant. And I tell you what, in hindsight, this could have been even far worse. But one of the guys said, there is a woman that has been walking around doing trash pickup and she's got one of those gadgets.
Yep.
So he said, let me go find her. So I'm like, I think I will have your first child because this is a good thing. So she comes back.
You've had a lot of people's first childs, apparently.
Yeah, I know. I had a lot of kids.
You're offering.
Yeah. I know. I can't help it. That's about the only commodity I've got. But she's almost got this dazed look in her eyes, like because I was hoping, you really hope that people will see that you're not capable, so they're going to offer up. But everybody's like, yeah, no, here we've supplied you with the tools, have at it. But the funny thing is this is how I think people get PTSD, because I have no recollection of the stench that I stuck my face close to, because you stick the little tool in there, and I mean, the water it's colored. It is not clear. You don't just look in there and go, there's the keys, let me grab them. I mean, the keys are buried within it's piles.
Oh, you didn't know where it was? You had to go through there?
Oh. Well, I generally knew the area, but I'm like, I don't even know how deep a portalette is. I mean, does it go all the way to the ground? I didn't know. So I literally, and that's what I'm telling you, it could have been a far worse story, but they give me the thing. I go down, I pick something and I pull it up and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's just a poop, but I'm not certain. But I'm like, what do I do with the poop I've moved? I mean, do I sit it on top of the pile? Do I fling it out in the grass? Because if I have to pull a lot of poops out, I want to be sure where do you put the stuff you've already, because if you throw it back in, you're not getting any closer. But what happened was when I stuck it back in, I could hear it move.
And you heard the key.
Right. It was like the big fob key.
It's like plastic.
In a circle. Oh no, metal.
Okay.
So I managed to grab it, and when I pull it out and I'm looking at it, I can see the little tread mark on it. So it's come up with some fecal material. So I don't even know what to do. I drag it outside, and I'm like, I don't know if this is breaking the law or something, because I'm like, I guess dogs poop on the ground. It's just poop. So I'm literally like dragging the key thing with, holding on to the wand in the grass like a dog would drag its behind, trying to clean the little poo scrubs off. And it's really not working.
And I was going to say, too, you got to hope that the thing works, right?
Well, you got to touch it. You got to touch poo.
Well, yeah. But I mean, I'm just saying the fob itself. I mean, if it's been soaked in water, I mean, it's electronic. It might not work.
Well, it's not water. It's been soaking in. I hate to tell you.
Well, I know. I'm saying, look, I was trying to.
And let me just ask you this: how many people have solid bowel in the morning?
Yeah. Not runners. Okay. Not. I mean, everyone's nervous. Everyone's. Yeah. Everyone. Yeah. You've.
So exactly. Well, see, that's what. So I rinsed it off, and you're right. I'm like, it's a battery. So I rinse it off, and I pull out the utility key or the skeleton key or whatever's in the fob. They give me like this clear little glove. And the lady was helpful. She's like, I'm not touching it, but I'll help tell you.
I'll give you some equipment.
Drop it. Yeah. So she let me drop it in there. And when you drop it in there, there's some brown stuff in there. And I still to this day don't know if it was the fecal stuff or if it was just rust or something.
Yeah, it's probably rust.
Okay, well, let's hope so. So I washed the skeleton key, and I went up to this ambulance, and I said, people, you've probably had to deal with some DEFCON 7 situations. I mean, there's bound to be some biohazard stuff. This came out of a portalet. I'm pretty sure everything that could possibly be gross and probably bacteria that will kill me is on my key. Could I please have something? And they're like, man, we don't have anything. And I'm like, dude, look, you know what? Kidder, okay? Tell the homeless man you can't take him to the hospital. But I mean, I seriously need some bleach or something. And they're like, man, we don't have anything. And I'm like, dude, how do you clean your rig? I know you do. But anyway, I'm like, I don't have time for you fools. So I walk away, try to have some dignity, which I have none. Everybody is scattered. Everybody's like, oops, sorry, got to go back to shower. So I'm staring all by myself. I go back to my car. And when I try to put the skeleton key in the door, I learn a harsh lesson, which is, if you have fobbed out, you must fob in. So the minute I put the skeleton key in my door handle, I set the alarm off. Well, then everybody's staring at me like, here I am dressed in triathlon clothes at 5:00 on a Sunday. I'm trying to steal a car. I'm like, sorry, my car.
Your own car.
So I finally, so let me tell you, how you get the thing to stop doing it? You got to stick the damn fob in the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. Like, I borrowed a car to drive up to Lake Placid, my friend's car, and my car isn't like that. So my car, if I fob out, I can key in. But his is not that way. So his is like what you said. So I used the key once to try to get in, and the alarm started going off. Yep. And I'm for like 2 minutes, I'm going, why is that thing going off? With just
you're like, I'm going to prison. So anyway, a long story. You were right, and I panicked because I'm like, I don't even have AAA. I might have had AAA, but I don't think I did. And it's a Sunday, and I mean, no one's going to come and help me. That's going to be able to do anything, and I'm going to have to find a hotel in it's in Knoxville, and and I can't, I can't drive my car. Yeah. So ultimately, Lenny, who worked for Rev 3, said, look, because I'm sitting on a curb, Googling, I dropped my key in a portalet. What is and I mean, no one has really done that. Apparently, I am the first person.
You're the first one. Well, you got to populate the internet with that story at least. So the next person.
I initiated. Mm-hmm. So when I put it in there, it wouldn't work. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have literally done all that and put fecal material in my car. And, because I mean, as a former prosecutor, I understand about DNA transfer. So I'm all upset, and Lenny's like, Susan, look, it's probably the infrared light. Oh, and then I even had people on the phone, and they're like, ma'am, you did what? Sorry, we can't help you. You're too stupid. So literally he said, just leave it in the sun and let it dry out. So I left it, I'm sitting here like 2 beers in, have to go to the bathroom, sitting on the curb with my car behind me locked or unlocked rather now, and with the fob in the sun. And so finally, after a while, I put the fob in and it worked. So I said, so Lenny said, Susan, you're driving to your friend's house in Chattanooga. If I were you, I would not take the fob out and then hope it works again. This may just be a one-time thing. So you're going to have to drive for 2 hours without stopping. Well, needless to say, I get in the car, start driving. I'm famished and I have to go to the bathroom bad. So I go to the only McDonald's that literally was understaffed. And because I couldn't leave the car running, I was afraid this would just be the tip off to the whole story, as if I get my car stolen, while I'm
it's almost like joke would be on them then, if they turn the car off.
I know. Well, that's true. But I said, so I literally, I think it took me 30 minutes in the line, because once I committed, I couldn't do anything to go inside to check on it. And they were totally understaffed. And then the food was horrible and I had to go to the bathroom. So for 30 minutes, I'm absolutely miserable. And then finally, I'm like, you know what? I can't ask someone to watch my car while I go in and use the bathroom. I'm just going to have to go to the bathroom somewhere. And I don't want to leave my car running. And it's daylight still. So I don't want to, be going to the bathroom in a public place. So I opted to go around the back of like a big store, figuring that by the Dipsy dumpster, I would have privacy. And then I was going to do something that, as an adult woman, you must never have to do. But as I'm doing that, literally, I have my car running. The door is open. I've tucked behind a dumpster. And here comes a car full of young boys that are driving around. And I'm like, now I'm probably going to be killed. But I'm like, they're probably driving going, is that an adult woman going to the bathroom behind the dumpster? I'm like, you know what? And then someone said, they probably have security footage. And I'm like,
wow.
At least I have Rev 3 splashed all over me. Yeah, so that's
got to be like the worst. That's got to be like the worst way to celebrate finishing an Ironman triathlon.
Well, this was only a half.
But still, the tragedy aftermath. The tragic aftermath is something I've never heard before.
I know, and I tell you, I think I ended up just driving home, and I think it worked for a while, and then it pooped out pretty shortly thereafter.
Yeah, like you, I was going to say, like, you can open those things and kind of clean out the battery and try to clean everything out, and then kind of put it back together and hope everything is in better working order. But at that point, it's like, do you even really want to keep the thing around? You might, and it's not like the olden days when you could just like take a coat hanger and shove it down the window and and pop the lock. It's like these days, I mean, in order to call, a locksmith to get your car open, it's like you said, it's not something that just happens. It's not easy to get out of.
But the bad part is even if I'd gotten my car open, I couldn't drive it.
Yeah.
The skeleton, because this is the second thing I realized. The skeleton key does not work in the ignition. The skeleton key unlocks my door, but the only thing that operates my car is that damn, fob.
Wow. Yeah. Yep. Man. Well, I got to tell you, I'm glad I got to the bottom of that story. Yeah. That was a mystery. And you know what? It pretty much was exactly what it should have been.
What you thought it would be. Oh yeah. Because you sometimes, because one time I think even I was in the bathroom and it's like, the one time you take a hat with you, like a toque is what it was, and it had Ironman Canada on it. It was like my favoriteest hat. And it was so favorite. I just never used it. I just loved it. And then the one time I say, I'm finally going to get to wear it. And then it got too hot. I tucked it in the back of my pants and I go into the portalette and it's like, I pull my pants down, same thing. You go to the bathroom and when you're pulling up, you're like, no.
I bet you'll never do that again.
Well, but when I turned, because I thought if it had gone in, would I have gone after it? And the answer was pretty much no. But luckily it fell on the floor. But then, you pick it up off the floor and you're like, the bottoms of a portalette are always wet. And it's not because people are in there washing their hands.
It's still better on that side than the other side.
Man, you all are gross. Yeah. Because it's you all. We know it's you.
So listen, how many, what's the figure up to now? How many Ironman triathlons have you done?
I am at 111.
111. So when is 112?
next weekend.
Yeah. So you're like my friend Brooke. My friend Brooke, she runs half marathons almost every weekend. And when I asked her why she runs so much, she goes, well, I just hate training. So I just figure if I just, it seems like exactly the same story.
No, you got to tell her to use her motto to be race fresh, don't train.
Race fresh. Perfect.
Exactly.
I like it. So next weekend you said, what's the event for next weekend?
This weekend is age group nationals in Cleveland. So I'll do an Olympic on Saturday, sprint on Sunday, and then I'll be properly trained up. And so I affectionately call it the Mighty Man, but it is the Michigan Titanium. And then I added the man. So then it's because they called it Mighty or Maitai. So I called it Mighty Man, and then it kind of stuck.
There you go. All these things have right. It's all Lobster Man and Eagle Man and
because but I hope I will see some of your people, because I will be at, so after that race is I think I don't race again until Ironman Maryland, and then I think I have 2 weeks and it's Ironman Louisville, then the following weekend is Great Floridian, then I think I have a free week, and then it's Ironman then I run the Marine Corps Marathon, then I do Ironman Florida, so that'll be 3.
My God, I hope you get air miles.
No, 4 marathons in a row. Yeah. And then my last one is Ironman Cozumel the week before Thanksgiving. And then I'm doing Challenge Daytona, which is a half in Daytona in December.
Wow.
And then
that is a full schedule.
Yeah. Then I have the Jacksonville Marathon. I've paced that one.
Yeah.
So
what's your pace group?
Usually they stick me at anywhere between, usually I prefer 6 hours.
Yeah.
So we do the Galloway method.
Yeah. The run.
So I pace, 6. And then I've paced the 7 at Disney, and I paced this year, I foolishly did an Ironman on Saturday, drove to Disney, paced the 7-hour marathon group. Yeah. Blew up.
Did you really?
Blew up in the most horrible of ways at mile, probably 23, because I stopped to rest, not realizing that where I stopped, they still had a couple miles. And so I raced to catch up with them, and then blew myself out the back end. When I came back by, it was probably with 2 or 3 miles to go. I was probably 2 miles at that point. And I sat down to have a Diet Coke. And what I thought was hilarious or a regular Coke, the lady handed me a Dixie cup. And I said, ma'am,
this ain't going to cut it.
Yeah, I'm like, you're holding the can. I've just done 24 miles. I'm pretty sure the number of, and I'm the pace group for the 7. So the balloon ladies, I can see them, could I have another sip? And she poured me another Dixie cup. And I said, ma'am,
just give me the can.
Seriously? Yeah. This is
there's a bad volunteer. There you go. There's a bad volunteer.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, lady, give me your badge number because I'm going to report you. So then luckily I had someone that was able to take them in, because I would never want to disappoint a group. I probably could have rallied. But once I realized the girl was in charge and she could get it done, I said, I think I have to sit down, because mostly it was my feet. My feet just couldn't stand being,
Yeah,
because that was technically 50 odd miles.
I tell you, I used a pacer when I did the Fort Lauderdale Marathon once, and the guy, I was just trying to follow the 5-hour pacer, and which would have been PR for me. And I'm still I haven't got through 5 hours yet, and it's driving me nuts. And I'm doing the Hartford Marathon in October, and I'm gunning for it again. So we'll try it then. But so I followed the 5-hour pacer, and at the half marathon point, they changed pacers. And for me at that point, mentally, I'm sitting here going, that jerk knew all along he was only doing a half, and now he's gone. And now I'm following Miss Fresh here. Miss Fresh Legs, I'm like, I can't do this. And so I backed off. It's silly because it's my own personal anxiety. And it's just where you're kind of running with somebody for half the race, and then he disappears. And then you get someone who's bubbly and fresh, and you're like, no, I'm just not there right now.
Yeah. I can see that. Yeah. We don't play those games. Galloway, we're in it we're in it the whole time. And I'm telling you, if you're not a Galloway runner, you really need to look at that, because to me, I am so much fresher. Yeah. And I do it in Ironmans, and it looks silly. Yeah. I mean, I admit, I'm running 2 seconds.
No.
But But I tell you what, you can be consistent. I mean, you end up running, because I find now I'm so not lazy, but I've really kind of fallen out of fitness, and I do 30-30. So literally 30-second run, 30-second walk for the entire marathon.
You know what? I am with you, and I never thought I'd be that way. And then I met someone doing Ironman Lake Placid last year, and I was after like 2 miles, and the guy's like, I run 2 telephone poles, and then I walk 2, and then I run 2, and we just did that almost the entire time. And, we were right around a 6-hour marathon, which I think is certainly respectable for an Ironman.
Oh, yeah.
And if you get off the bike and you've made the cutoff, a 6-hour marathon will get you there. And,
Yes.
And so I did it again. And I think the way I approached Maryland was I'm like, all right, I'm just going to try to run the first mile and judge how I feel. And if I'm okay, I'll just keep going. And then, as soon as I feel like I can't do it, I'm going to pull the trigger. And I was like a half mile in, and I'm like, this ain't working for me.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, at mile 24, 25, those people that have been running, they are running so slow. If they're still out, and they are dying. And if you're doing the run walk, not that you're fresh at mile 24 in any race,
But you are.
But you look at some of these other guys who are struggling, and you're like, wow, like, it gets you through, and it gets you through. I think the second time I did it, it was like 5:40 or something like that, which, I've run marathons in slower times than that. So, I'm certainly a supporter of the Galloway method. There is a big argument, and I don't want to bring it up here because I'm sure we could talk about it forever. There is a big argument in the running community when people talk about running a marathon versus finishing a marathon. We don't need to get into that. Good, but we've had on our webpage, we've had some big arguments over it in the past, which is the only thing that's ever been like a point of contention amongst people. I think at this point, we don't need to go into that discussion. But I got to tell you, I think, 6, whatever gets you to the finish line, gets you there. And I think that Galloway method for a lot of people, is certainly effective. And, especially, if it's your first time, it's your first, whatever. I mean, whatever makes you feel comfortable to get you from point A to point B. And for me, especially in the triathlons, that thing works. This has been wonderful. I've had a great time.
Well, thank you. Me too.
I'm shocked at how much time I've kept you here. I know I said to you earlier, I said, I'm going to keep you no more than an hour, and it's been almost an hour and a half. But thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, you're welcome.
Now, is there a chance that I might see you at Mont Tremblant, the half next year, or at Lake Placid next year? No. Well,
I definitely am not. I don't normally travel for halves.
Yeah.
That far.
Yeah.
If I was going to go Mont Tremblant, I would do the full again.
Now,
no, I did not sign up for Placid, and usually it's just because it's too far for me. And then,
trip.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Now is the Marine Corps Marathon something that you do often? Because I'm thinking about putting it on my list for next year.
Yeah, I try to do it as often as I can, but usually Great Floridian has conflicted, and this year, or actually it was either Great Floridian or Beach to Battleship. One of those two always fell on that date.
And the triathlon takes precedence for you, probably.
Usually, yeah, because like Great Floridian, I think I've done that 11 times because it's in my backyard. I mean, it's only 2 hours away, so why would you? Yeah, I mean, to me, I just love doing. And if you think about it, sometimes the smaller ones, there really is not. I mean, heck, they might have 300 people doing the full, and you can really spread out. So, people think it's just some big party, and I do sometimes tell people that if you're going to do your first one. Even though Ironman is so very expensive, it is a different animal to have 1 billion people on your course as opposed to really getting to know yourself if you've got, a lonelier course.
Yeah.
They're different animals.
Sure.
And sometimes if you need to test yourself, that there's more of a test when you're all by yourself.
Certainly. Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you.
To support the independence.
Well, listen, I hope you stay in touch because I'd really love to meet you at a race one day. I think that would be amazing. It's been my pleasure to have you on the show.
Well, thank you. My pleasure. And you can always reach back out to me because I got plenty of stories.
I'm sure. Maybe we'll have to bring you back on.
Oh yeah, I'll do a twofer.
All right, so listen, I'm going to try to get this episode out on Friday because I didn't do an episode last week. I actually recorded one and the sound didn't come out. And I have to apologize to Laura Stebbins. I meant to do that in the open, but I didn't. So apologies to Laura for that. We're going to have her back on in a couple weeks. And with that, as always, just I guess always remember, when it comes to running, I'm no expert. I'm just ordinary.